Hey everyone, I can see that people are still joining, so we'll probably wait 2 more minutes before we kick off. People still joining, so let's do 1 more minute and we can start.
That's great.
Okay, I think we can start. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I can imagine that if you are on the call, you are probably dealing with a challenge, and the challenge is an aging SAP front-end accelerator that will be end of support mid 2028. And this is quite a big topic, and a lot of customers are trying to figure out what is the best way moving forward. And today we will try to focus mainly on the B2B commerce and how this can be solved with many different ways and approaches that we will explain to you. The session is going to be probably around 45 minutes, and the fire chat I am expecting to be around 30 minutes, but we also expect Q&A. Keep in mind that we do not have to wait till the very end to answer all of your questions. So if you are going to have a question that is connected with the topic we are discussing, I will be looking at the chat, and then I can take the question, and depending on who this question will be directed to, I will ask Isabel or Krishna or myself to answer the question as we go. So therefore, you might also expect that it's going to be a combined fire chat with Q&A, and therefore it's going to be 45 minutes altogether. So let's start with some introductions. So Isabel, let's start with you.
Yeah. Hello, Isabel Tinoco here, working on the partnership side at Coveo, AI powered search. And we're excited to further discuss how we can bring, great goodness to the B2B world.
Thank you, Isabel. Krishna?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Krishnamurthy with NAC. We are CX experts working very closely with B2B brands, helping them with the modernization journey that we are here to talk about. Very excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. And my name is Patrick Friday. I am the CEO and one of the co-founders at Alokai. My main focus is on the go-to-market. So I do speak with a lot of customers, but also partners. And we are trying to figure out the best way to help our customers modernize their front end by using our solution in combination with other tech vendors. So moving forward to the actual discussion, and I think starting off with the actual deadline, what it means, and how can this be handled. So this is quite uncomfortable truth for anyone, but you are talking to a lot of customers, Krishna, right? Especially those within the SAP ecosystem, considering your focus. And what are they doing right now? And what are the main questions that you are seeing that are being asked?
All right. You started with the most interesting question first. So
Yes.
let me take that. So, as part of my role as the leader for the professional services and our technology here at NAC, we are seeing broadly customers in maybe one of two categories. There are still several customers who are running the classic the standard accelerator, and are still waiting to decide where they want to go next. The risk of the deadline is known to them, but many of them are still in the wait and watch that, oh, maybe there is still time and maybe we can still catch up. And then there are those who have already proactively started moving towards the direction of the modernization. The one, especially on the classic and the standard accelerator with Commerce Cloud, we are still seeing customers are they are aware, like I said, they are aware of the risk, they are aware of the issue here. They are not paying close enough attention to the opportunity cost of what they are missing by not looking at this closely. So, just a reminder, 27 was supposed to be the end of life, 28 being the end of maintenance for standard accelerator, which means beyond 27, there are no legal improvements, no security improvements. None of those are going to be supported. And 2027, as we all know, is not that far. We are already almost in the middle of the year.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast it goes, and I have a feeling that some customers, they are just trying to hide it under the carpet and hoping that it's the problem suddenly is gonna disappear. But you also raised an important point that 2028 deadline is an absolute deadline when really bad things can happen. But
Yes.
from mid 2027 for another year, you won't be getting any updates. So you
Yes.
will be
Yes.
staying on your own, which can also be quite a big risk. So you mentioned about the alternative cost, right? So let's try to figure out what does it actually cost an organization to stay on the accelerator. So let's say from now on, let's assume they're going to be there for another 12 to 18 months. It's not about the license, it's the actual cost of not doing something else.
Right. That's the real kicker, isn't it? That what they are missing out on, and there is a real tangible cost of not moving to modernization. And then there are some hidden costs of not moving to modernization. There are two problems with that. And for business, the hidden cost sometimes is more acute and they are more aware of it because they are dealing with the problems of they want to release new features, but there is a slowdown in how fast IT can move in terms of doing releases. They all hear these great stories of, hey, agile B2B brands are doing releases every night, every week, every 2 weeks. And they are still hearing release cycles in their companies of, we need 4 months, we need 4 weeks to do a release. We can't make even simple UI changes where labels have been changed to be deployed anytime we want. They are still dealing with these kinds of challenges. So there is a real tangible cost of not moving, of course. You run the risk of not being able to keep up with the supported versions. That has a real risk. But there are the hidden costs of not moving forward, which is the opportunity cost. Business is not able to deploy releases and new features faster, which means their competition is. Today, if I were to divide our customer base into three categories, A, B, and C being the least mature and A being the most mature customers are the ones who are doing releases already like B2C brands. They do releases once every 2 weeks. They want to be able to move that fast because they are adding features at that rate. And if the entire process, the infrastructure, the DevOps, and that whole process doesn't support that vision, they are actually missing out on real revenue and cost avoidance opportunities there. And that's the real risk we are seeing.
Yeah, and that's something we also try to explain, that I just think the biggest cost here is missed revenue. Because if you can't move fast enough, your customer experience is not where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's gonna be a problem for your revenue teams. So when you walk into an assessment with a potential SAP customer, what is the single most common thing that you find buried in their accelerator implementation?
So several, I think that there are several things. I don't know if there is any one particular thing, but one of the things we see is they have built this platform out many years ago. The platform has failed to keep up with the changing times, and the organization is moving forward with the assumption that somehow it will work, right? That's one of the things we see as a big opportunity or a risk for the customers to look at. In other words, when they built this out, maybe in 2019, maybe at the start of the pandemic, where many of the customers moved towards Commerce Cloud, their assumptions around the business have remained in 2019 or 2020. They haven't moved on from there. Whereas we know the world of B2B buying has completely been transformed in the last 5 or 6 years. And this is something that's the old accelerator based models, from a user experience, from ease of deployment, from a runtime, from operations management point of view. The customers are absolutely missing out on those opportunities there with the platform.
Okay, so a follow-up question to this one. You mentioned that most of the accelerators that went live many years ago, they were not built for today B2B journey expectations, right? So what are some of the main proof points that support this?
Absolutely. I think number one, from a storefront and from an experience point of view, every B2B brand has to recognize that they are moving into the experience economy. They are not just selling motors and pumps and chemicals. They are also selling the experience of the storefront to their customers and their distributor networks. So number one, you must make it easy for your distribution network and customer network to do business with you. This is number one. If you cannot make it easy, there is somebody else out there who will make it easy, right? So they have to solve the problem of complexity, which is often not a problem that they had solved back in 2019 or 2020. They have often ignored that problem. They have built the B2B experience almost like an application, which is not the recommended approach. So, number one, they have not made it easy for their customers to do business with them, whether it is in context of content discovery, whether it's in the context of product discovery, which Isabel will talk about in a few minutes. These are very important aspects of the customer experience that has been ignored, traditionally been ignored. Secondly, from the IT point of view, the ability to manage and maintain these platforms with high performance, high stickiness, ease of use from a usability point of view, making it responsive so that these are available for any mobile devices that their customers and distributors are likely to reach them. After all, we are in an omni-channel world. These are some typical gaps that we are seeing today in the way these older storefronts and experiences were built out in 2019.
Yeah, and what I experience quite often from more conservative side of the customers, and I think it's quite common on the B2C, when they were doing front end implementations 7, 8, 9 years ago. Usually it was a 2 year project, more than $2-3 million implementation, massive team assigned. And now they are like, okay, but if I want to modernize, it's gonna be same thing all over again. I don't want to go through this pain. Like, what should we do? So how does this look, and what's the approach they could take to avoid something like this?
Absolutely. I think that's a really good question because the traditional and the older way of approaching transformations like this tended to be what we call big bang. You take on a multi-year project, multi-million dollar project, and you then try and solve every problem with that approach. And today, I believe the modernization that is being achieved with headless, with composable architectures, with more best of breed type architectures, that approach tends to be not exclusively for, or rather, that's not the only approach available to clients. Let me put it this way. There are approaches of taking smaller steps towards a modernization. These are not things that you need to wait for 2 years. These are actual proof points that you can develop within weeks and months and not have to wait for 2 years to see the end result. In other words, many of our B2B and B2C brands, for example, have multi brand, multi region, multi country kind of business environments. A simple proof point that needs to be developed for modernization need not be one that takes 2 years and covers the whole geography. It can also be done by a brand, by a region. They can roll this out in a matter of 16, 20 weeks, 24 weeks, and get that confidence and clarity that this is the approach they want to take with the architecture and with the approach of building and maintaining this platform. This is the big change because the composable and the modern architectures actually allow you to be more nimble and to be more modular. You don't need to be this monolithic, tightly coupled architecture where everything has to go together. You can actually break this out in smaller chunks and have a lot more piecemeal, milestone based or rollout approach where you can cover brands, regions, business units, and so on without being tied up to some big program vision. I
Yeah.
hope that kind of answers that question there, Patrick, right?
Yeah, it totally makes sense, and that's also the approach we really like, and I think I'm gonna cover this a little bit later as well, and do a little bit of deep dive. So to close like this section and the discussion about the accelerator, end of life, and the different ways how customers should think of the next step, and do not be afraid that this is gonna be the exact same repetition that they did many years ago, because the world have changed, the tech available is totally different, so it's not gonna be as scary as it used to be. But you did guide a lot of B2B organizations through this phase. What is one mistake you see companies make when they finally decide to modernize?
All right. Very good. Very interesting question. I think one actually goes back to what you just pointed out, which is while companies are moving towards modernization as a vision of building out their new commerce engine, they are still approaching it in the old way of 2 years, 3 year programs, big picture, but not tactical enough where they can get quick wins and quick hits from what they are trying to do. This is one of the challenges we constantly see companies struggle with. They have built out visions for digital transformation, but the programs are still resembling a 2 year, 3 year plan rather than making a roadmap with very quick wins that can be defined in a matter of weeks and months rather than in years and quarters. So, this is something that we commonly see companies have not yet uh, adopted wholeheartedly the agile principle and be able to work on a completely a new approach because it tended to be still very uh, centrally managed and centrally controlled type implementations and transformations. Whereas the new approach now really lets you break up this and have the front end experience and the storefront experience and the back end move at very different speeds and velocities. This, I would say, is one of the big gaps that we are still seeing when we hear companies say, we want to modernize, but we are still approaching it like we did back in 2019.
Yes, totally makes sense.
I'd be curious to hear your experience there, Patrick, because you've been advising so many customers, and Isabel, from your side, also would love to hear your experience with what you're seeing as some of the missing pieces in the transformation picture.
Yeah, so maybe covering from our end why it doesn't have to be that long and doesn't have to be so expensive to modernize. So on our end, there is a lot of B2B features that are provided out of the box, because what we like to say, customers shouldn't be reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch every time they do
Yes,
something. They should just focus on customizing the customer experience.
sure.
So just to name a couple of features like cost center and budget management, order approval workflows, quick order, account hierarchy management, assistant service mode, all of those things are there. Of course, they still will require some configuration because it's going to be different for each company, but the groundwork is done. And then the question is, how much do you want to customize this? How much efforts do you need to make it tailored for a specific customer of yours? But all the groundwork and all the preparation, all the architecture is there. It's covering all of the SAP APIs. So the majority of work is simply done. So customers get a very big head start. And very often they are asking after seeing a demo, oh, so what, we can just take it and go live next month? It's like, yes, if everything we showed you is tailor-made for what you need, probably you could do this, but in 99% of the cases, that's simply not going to work. So some customizations will be needed. But going back to what you said previously, we always suggest trying to start with a smaller market. And even if you have multiple brands, try to start with one brand while still keeping everything else on the accelerator, and then simply go live with a simple scope, something that is quite straightforward, test it out, show it to the business stakeholders, show the improvements, and then try to get an approval for the future work. That's how I would structure this.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
If I can add, and this is fascinating, yeah, the phase approach is going to be important. Also, piloting, is it working as you go about it? Like, hey, let's see the results, let's see what's coming up. Do we need to tweak? You do an MVP to start with a smaller group
Yes.
or a smaller audience. In our case, search, sometimes they say search is an afterthought, but it's actually the beginning of the journey. That's how they're going to be getting their results, etc. So that part, when it's an afterthought, and also their ideas or plans for agentic or all things generative experiences, if they don't have a plan, oftentimes it gets pushed later on, but then it gets tricky to get it set as a replatforming is happening. So that's why I think with you, NAC team, just guiding the different organizations, hey, what's the plan, what do you want to achieve, is key in this replatforming process and planning.
Sure. Now, Patrick, if I may pick your brains on a topic that we often hear from clients. Um, you all ship with Alokai, I know, ships with so many great features and capabilities. But in your experience working with customers in Europe and North America, etc., what have your experience been around? How long does it take for a team to go from, typically the initial conversation and the demos that your team does to the time that these are actually rolled out into production and to release in the market? What has been your typical cycle time there in the recent years?
Yeah, so in most cases, we see something between like 4 to 6 months for the
Okay.
first go live, depending on the scope, and then the majority of the work after the first go live, I would say something within like 10 to 12 months. And that's because once you go live with the first market or the first brand, we have something that we call like multi everything. It's multi geo, multi currency, depending on which market you have. You can just replicate what you already built. Think of it as like a copy paste, and then you make adjustment for additional brand or a new market that you want to enter. based on the differences. But in general, this is more or less how it works.
That is great. And that speaks to your pilot approach, Isabel, that you just
Exactly.
talked about, right? The MVP approach. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is great. And Patrick, usually, yeah, customers are afraid of just changing, migrating scope. That's going to take a lot of time to deliver, and there's a lot of risk. But you, before, as soon as we started this conversation, you said you guys support it otherwise. So it'll be great to hear how you guys
Yeah,
got.
so I think it was partially covered between the lines, but we found a name that we call horizontal slicing or a strangle fit. So basically, this is the migration approach where you simply don't go live with everything at once. So as I mentioned, you figure out the best brand, the best market you want to try it out with. You look at the results, and then you continue with what you've built, and you multiply this by another brands and markets.
Awesome.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah, and just one last question, maybe to close with this segment. We all know that performance and speed of a front-end application is crucial to B2C, but what's the difference with B2B?
Oh yeah, that's that's a good question, because very often when we speak with B2B customers, and our focus is very much on performance, because we do believe it matters, and they say, look, if the site is loading even for 5 minutes, they're still gonna buy from me because I'm the only supplier in that market, or I have a almost monopoly on a certain things, and I'm the only one having such a product. I'm like, great, but wouldn't it be better if this was actually loaded up within the 3 to 1 second? So when they click, there is a reaction. As Krishna mentioned, we have to remember that a purchasing manager that is buying your products from your B2B site, after work, they're gonna go and order things from Nike, Adidas, like all the best brands out there, with fantastic customer experience, almost instant loading times. And then the next day, they get back to work, and they still have to wait, 5, 10, 15 seconds for your site to load. So is this something that you believe is making your customers happy? And is this something that they enjoy doing while they are buying your products? Probably not. So when we've built Alokai and the whole front-end architecture, it was built for elite core with vital scores. So out of the box is like almost 100% on everything, right? For B2B performance, it will impact conversion. So yes, maybe those customers will buy from you, but because they wait so long, maybe they won't buy as much as they could. Maybe you are losing upsell potential, right? Isabel is going to talk about personalization, the way to show the product that potentially could be also upsold. If they are annoyed with your site, they will just ignore it, they will buy what they need, and they will leave. So that's how I would think about the B2B and performance on those sites. But look, composable frontend is only as powerful as the discovery experience on top of it. And again, I really think that for B2B specifically, search and personalization are absolutely critical. And this is exactly where Coveo comes in. So for me, just on the high level, B2B search sounds much more simple than B2C. Less impulse buying, more rational decisions. But why it is actually harder?
That's a great question. And you just mentioned, yeah, having the experience of the B2B because the buyers are used to the B2B. Let's say a procurement manager placing a repeat order wouldn't be the same as someone looking for new hiking boots to go on a trip, or a supply chain manager looking for a substitute SKU when the item they're looking for is out of stock and needs it right away for the day-to-day work. A marketing manager pulling technical specs of a new product. So there's so many different scenarios. Uh, but yeah, buyers are still expecting the same shopping experience with B2B, anticipating the ease of finding the right product or the right information as fast and as accurate as possible, because for them time is money. That's their day to day, that's the work,
Yeah.
how they have to get things solved and on the go. So the main difference, I would say, B2B catalogs are super complex. There's contract specific pricing, role based visibility, technical specifications, certifications requirements, and all of these, a generic keyword search engine just won't make the cut. Trying to build it from scratch or take it and do the heavy lifting, manual tuning, it requires a lot of maintenance. So I would say that's the main difference with the B2B and the B2C.
Right. And
Okay.
if I may just add to
Yes.
that, the product discovery problem has become very acute for several industry verticals where products are very complex by nature:
Correct.
engineering, building and construction, wholesale distribution. We work with a lot of life sciences and medical equipment distribution where the buyers are looking to find the right products and solutions for their business. It's not as if they always know exactly what it is they want. So today, for our customers who are serving these customers, they have one of two ways of providing that information. One is through sales reps. And we know the sales rep model is an expensive one. The second model is through having customer service, where people call in to find answers to product questions. And that becomes just as complex for customer service agents to be finding and discovering the right product and to make the recommendation. So, providing that intelligent, guided selling approach, providing an intelligent discovery pattern for B2B buyers, that seems to have become the expectation now in many industry verticals. They will not work in any other way. So it may not be B2C search, but the problems here are so much more complex, right?
Yeah.
And that also ties back to the performance issue. Like, if I have to wait for picking up a phone, calling customer service, being on the phone for 5 6 minutes, that's real dollars going away from our customers who are spending money on customer service. They need to solve that problem more cost effectively, right?
Yeah. Totally agree. Uh, and so, Isabel, I would like you to walk me through a real scenario. So, let's say a procurement manager lands on a B2B storefront with, I don't know, 40,000 SKUs and types in a search query. What does good look like versus bad? And what does the different actually mean for the revenue?
Yeah, that's a great question. And something key is even before they log in to the portal and before even they start typing, just going through the experience of the site as anonymous. And then as they start typing, they get personalized results based on historic data, previous behavior they've had, and delivering really dynamic personalized experiences even before they log in, where the information from past exchanges is stored. I think that that's very, very powerful. But also, there's a long tail of search portion, the different part query numbers. Sometimes they're missing characters or missing segments of a number. So it sounds easy to, oh, maybe if I just type asterisk or slash or whatever. But to really get the result, it can be very, very tricky. Things like unit measurement, search, normalization, conversational conversion are critical to get this done. And the majority of buyers tend to be technical when they know what they're looking for because they've usually bought it multiple times, but they're still expecting guidance. So if they don't have this personalized experience in getting the what they're specifically looking for in these thousands of SKUs, you lose them, and then you're making them waste time, and then getting through, as Krishna said, through the support or through the rep, it can get tricky. So that time can be better invested.
Yeah, and I think it's not only tricky, but it's just very annoying.
No,
Where you can't find something and you are using a website, right? You usually do not want an interaction with a human being, but then when you actually need to do it, people these days, they just feel annoyed. Why? Like,
Yeah.
otherwise I could just call you right away and I need this, where can I find it? That's not
Yeah.
the experience we want to deliver to the customers.
That's right.
Absolutely. There is a statistic we have seen, Patrick, in the last 10, 15 years of being in the digital B2B space, which is 80% of inquiries to a call center are for three problems. Do you have a product? What is the price? When can I get it? Availability. Literally, three questions take up 80% of a call center's cost and bandwidth.
Yeah.
And we need to help customers move that cost away from the 80% and lower it and reinvest that money for other things like modernization.
Yeah, in theory, it's very straightforward solution, right? Just
Right,
make it digital, and you're gonna
right.
save quite a lot of money, and you're gonna make your customers happy.
Exactly.
So when we run, maybe not as much on the custom demo, this is where we get the question about this. But during the proof of concept phase, every single time the B2B customers are asking about two things: contract specific pricing and role based search. So I think this is one of the most sensitive areas in B2B commerce. How does Coveo handle surfacing the right price to the right buyer at the search time?
That's really a great question. Because to serve well B2B, you must provide this. But how complicated and how much investment and painful it is to really get it. The video with Kobo study is purpose built for complex B2B scenarios. So we power some of the largest manufacturing distributors. They try where accuracy, account specific pricing, availability must be delivered instantly, no margin or error. You cannot provide a different pricing to a different persona. So something to keep in mind is, can you do this without the pain, without the with multiple pricings, multiple SKUs, creating this huge matrix that it gets challenging, and then you have to do workarounds. To make this easy, we've heavily invested in our proprietary indexing, which handles complex pricing matrices in a single flexible index. So this avoids duplication, keeping performance fast. Unlike, for instance, you could have other alternatives with multiple indexes, it becomes slow, latency, and then it's very challenging to scale. So for B2B specifically, Coveo can understand the role-based context. A key account manager searching for a specific item sees contract-specific SKU and negotiated pricing versus some another role, another person, marketing managers sees catalogs with different details, let's say details on the technical side to download. um, and also they are powered product listing pages, so these are very powerful because they are dynamically ranked based on what each buyer segment is most likely to purchase.
Okay,
Great.
it makes sense. And it's gonna happen now. We are 39 minutes into the webinar, and I do have to ask the question about AI, but I think we went through it quite well, and but it has to happen, right? So B2B personalization is very much about logistical efficiency, ensuring a buyer orders enough complementary material to fill the truck. So it's basically manageable in terms of costs, right? So, can you talk about how AI driven recommendations are not just improving the user experience, but actually drive larger, more efficient basket size for the merchant? Like I mentioned that on the very beginning
Mm.
about, customer experience can also increase the order volumes and so on.
Yeah, and I'll say it always depends on the strategy that the business has. There are a wide range of recommendations. So, for instance, if buying again what they previously bought without having to search item by item, just providing that recommendation gets them to check, hey, I didn't know about this product. Let me do a little bit more digging. Frequently viewed together, for instance, that's another strategy. Frequently bought together. How to complete a project, it's like they have something in mind, but maybe with the different parts or asking the question, then the generative experience will guide and provide more detail and provide, hey, I'm missing these other products to really have my complete project. What else? Yeah, what's in inventory and not, because we don't want to, let's say, type for a SKU that an item that is not out of stock, but instead of that, there's another proposition of SKU or a similar item that they can actually go and buy, instead of saying, oh, it's out of stock, well, too bad, I'll be back, I don't know when. So all those details are very important on the AI, besides the experience, to increase the cart size. And also, Coveo integrates with Alokai, so natively. This is great via the headless UI library. So meaning search, product listing pages, recommendations, all are rendered in the same composable storefront. So it's easier to get this logistic efficiency.
Okay. Um, so we were talking about, reducing the time to market, figuring out different ways to do less work and be able to be ahead with everything that we can deliver out of the box. So Coveo also integrates with SAP Commerce Cloud. So what would you say is the timeline before the buyers actually start seeing meaningfully better search result? Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months?
I would say it depends. Yeah, we're very proud SAP endorsed partner, premium certified for commerce, but also for service. Um, so I would say it depends on the complexity. It depends if they're already a Coveo customer user, if they already have the index sourced, all that detail. It could be a matter, I would say, of days. But if it's to really build it, we were mentioning pilots. We do have a Coveo Impact pilot that help review what Coveo I will do for them. And usually it takes 5 to 6 weeks to set it up and start seeing some of the results. So it really depends how complex it is, but the results are evident. For instance, we've seen when we work solar replacements that are more and more often, where there was zero semantic search or advanced AI to reorder results. It's really fast. This change, you can see reductions in zero results immediately. So it really depends the case, but I would say the Coveo Impact Pilot that we offer is about 5 to 6 weeks if they're brand new, non-leveraging Coveo uh, anywhere else, and their instances.
Okay, so basically it is relatively fast to show to the business stakeholders that there's going to be a significant improvement in conversion, revenue, add to cart, and everything. That's great. Okay, so I promise it's going to be the last question about the AI, but I need to ask it
Yeah.
because we see this from our end as well, but I'm wondering like how is it from the search vendor perspective. So what's the most unexpected way you've seen AI relevance improve the B2B commerce experience?
This is a great question because you can take it from multiple angles. But something that I find very interesting and controversial is oftentimes when we're discussing, um, it's like, first I want to clean my data. It's like, hey, how long would it take? How are you gonna start? Like, oh, I want to have it clean just to start making the process and thinking about it. The beauty with Coveo is that they can start leveraging, and it's gonna help them identify what content they have, what's working, what's not working, what results are surfacing that are relevant to their buyers in this case. And we have great analytics that can provide that visibility. So in the B2B commerce experience, this would look like understanding what's selling more, what products are being searched for without a product match, um, and so on. So I would say the data clean chicken or the egg, how can I say it, like a statement, it's a little complicated, but I do think the search portion can actually help identify that part.
Okay, great. So I think now the last topic before we close down the session is the implementation approach, because we want to provide some practical guidance to the customers that are listening, how this can be done. And obviously, Krishna from NAC will be the best person to explain this to everyone. So, what are different phases of this phased migration approach that the customer could think about and plan on their own?
Sure. Thanks, Patrick. So typically we see customers break, we recommend customers break the problem into three distinct phases. The first phase really is around an assessment, doing some inventory and audit of what they have built on their current accelerator, figuring out how these map to what Alokai provides out of the box in terms of pre-built capabilities around B2B and what might be development which needs to be done. So sort of think of it like a fit gap analysis that needs to be conducted. So we really recommend taking an inventory of all your custom extensions, all of the integrations, all of the issues that they have implemented, all of the requirements they have implemented, doing a fit gap with what Alokai provides out of the box. By this time, this helps both us and the customer arrive at a solid foundation for the architecture, right? That includes Commerce Cloud, of course, that's the engine driving all of this, but also Alokai from an experience point of view, Coveo from a search and product discovery point of view, and the content management, which needs to be also thought about from a composable standpoint. So all of these elements need to be defined from a solution architecture point, at which point now we are ready to put together a roadmap. We say, yep, this is how we are going to structure the implementation. We are going to roll out these brands, these business units, these regions. And that picture needs to be very clearly understood by both all the stakeholders in a project. So that typically is our phase one. And this process, I know it sounds like a lot, but typically we have seen customers do this anywhere between the first week and about 4 to 6 weeks on an average. In this period, we come out with a very clear design, discovery of all of the scope items, architecture, a project plan, all of that is well defined. The second phase is the build phase where we are going to build and launch. This process takes anywhere again from around the 7 week window till about 20 to 24 weeks, depending on how many brands, how many regions, what are the specific nuances, where we are then setting up the storefronts, doing all of the development, integration with the backend Commerce Cloud through all the APIs, then integrating search, implementing all the B2B capabilities, and then, of course, going into your regular integration testing, acceptance testing, performance testing, all of those test cycles. So this cycle typically is the big build and test and launch cycle, which is around week 7 to about week 20, week 24. And after that, typically we see once customers are stable, we have gone through some hypercare, it's all been transitioned off to business as usual and application support. Now the customers are ready to take on the bigger business of scaling up and rolling out. And that typically becomes phase 3. And that really is a variable depending on how large their footprint is, how many people, how many brands, business units they want to roll it out. But the beauty is now with phase 1 and 2, you have established the foundation, you have established the templates, the global templates. Now rolling out becomes that much more iterative and that much more rapid. So
Okay.
typically we see this 3-step approach to setting up a modernization program for customers.
So the timeline sounds like something between 5 to 6 months on average.
Absolutely.
But then what they should expect in terms of the investment and return on investment?
So, because we are now looking at uh, a whole modernization program where we are not waiting for 2 years to see the results, we typically recommend doing an MVP approach for the first launch. That can be done in anywhere from 16 to 24 weeks. And it's very easy for us to tie the return on investment because we launch within 16 to 24 weeks. There is a storefront that's doing business. You're getting orders, transactions, customers. You're solving real problems of your B2B network now on the storefront. Finding the ROI and developing a business case for this is absolutely in the black and white. We know right away from the first launch whether or not there are issues with the approach, whether something needs to be improved in the next launch. All of that can be very quickly assessed and figured out. So we
Okay.
are we are no longer waiting like the old days of, yeah, let's do a launch in 1 year and see how it goes. We are moving now. We are literally doing a launch within 16 to 20 weeks. It's that much more possible now to start measuring the returns on investment at that scale, at that speed.
Okay, this is great. I know we are over the time, but we scheduled 1 hour just in case, and this is exactly just in case scenario. Let me just take like three questions from the audience. So the first one was about the CMS vendors that Alokai integrates with, and how does it work in composable stack. So we do cover most of what I call mainstream CMS vendors. Adding a CMS that we do not have integration with is also not a massive amount of work, but we simply focus on those that we see that are in motion on our deals. I would say that within the SAP ecosystem, Contentful is definitely number one, and we are also using it as default in our custom demo. So where customer is asking for a showcase, we would spin off SAP instance with Coveo and Contentful to cover CMS and search together with Alokai. And how it works in composable, we build it in a way that marketers are no longer blocked by the developers when they want to make changes to the site. So the marketers can live inside the CMS, and they can update the whole site, make changes to the product catalog without asking developers, hey, can you publish this? Or they don't have to try to schedule campaigns 2 months ahead of time just to make sure that the dev team is going to have a capacity for a Black Friday campaign that's going to come out. Search and merchandising teams work within Coveo and within the CMS, and the same would work with, I don't know, Content Stack or Amplience or Bloomreach. So this is very straightforward, and this is always something that we showcase. But I think the most important takeaway is to really understand that it's straightforward and marketers can do things on their own. And the second question, and I think it's gonna be more to Krishna. So the someone asked, if we are in the middle of SAP Commerce upgrade to the cloud from on-prem, should we wait until the whole migration to cloud is done, or can we start implementing composable stack on the customer experience? So take a new CMS, new search, take Alokai and implement this in parallel, not to waste time.
Absolutely. And I only have good news there to share. There is no dependency there from an upgrade point of view and the modernization point of view. You can continue with your upgrade path, and you can also start executing on the modernization path with no dependency between the two. The whole Alokai and the headless implementation can work in parallel. That this still integrates with backend SAP Commerce Cloud APIs. All of that work can continue. Test, build, launch, all of that can continue with no dependencies at all on the upgrade. So that's really good news for customers who are really anxious to get the modernization program on the way and don't have to wait. So no connections there between the upgrade and the modernization plan, in
Okay,
short.
great. And the next question, and I'm quite sure is towards Isabel. So if we are using Solar today as a search, which is a native search for SAP Commerce, what would be the triggers or some value points that would make us look at Coveo?
I would say the portion for generative, that one's out of the box. Um, whomever acquires can bring their LLM, or we can provide one, some. Um, you don't have to build from scratch. So solar, yeah, you have to build depending on what you're trying to get. With Covo, it's out of the box. So it's pretty much a plug and play. We have this connectivity with SAP, so that really helps. And as we mentioned previously, single index, quick, fast response, not latency, and not a lot of manual tweaking and workarounds to make sure whatever your strategy is works. So that part I would say is the most convenient out of Coveo, and that is proven in the SAP market with many customers leveraging it.
Okay, thank you. And one more question just came in, and I think it's gonna be to me. How do you handle customers who are mid-sub ecosystem, heavily using Smart Edit, S4HANA integrations, SAP Commerce integrations? Because Alokai offers Smart Edit and Solar capability out of the box. Yes, so this is a good point, and we also mentioned that before in this horizontal slicing. So some of the customers, they won't be ready to make, as I call it, a big bang migration to composable with all of the vendors included. And sometimes it does make sense to focus on improving the general user experience on the front end, making a new UI components, making a new design, making sure it works, and then just leveraging whatever you already have included in the commerce license. And then in the next step, talk to Coveo, talk to Contentful, test it out, and convince the business that this is the right choice. And as Isabel mentioned, I think this proof of concept stage, when you can actually try something out within the 4 to 6 weeks and have a very tangible results that actually mean something, and you can see the improvement, simply compare it to what you get from Solar versus what you get from Coveo, take it on the paper and go and convince the stakeholders. As simple as that. But yes, as a starting point, you can leverage most of your out-of-the-box SAP solutions for those that do not want to change everything at once, because sometimes it might not be the best case. Okay, so I think we are done. Isabel, Krishna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I think it was a very good discussion, and we covered a lot of things. For people attending, thank you so much for taking your time, whatever you are, because I could see people in Europe, I could see people in US. So in US is midday. In Europe, you are probably gonna go get your kids to bed or whatever you like to do in your evenings. At least I know exactly what I'm going to do right after I leave the webinar. The recording will be available for those that couldn't attend for any reason, so you can always rewatch it. And if you would have any questions after watching it to myself, Isabel, or Krishna, we are all available. You should easily find our LinkedIn profiles, so we are there to help. Oh, and if any of you are going to SAP Sapphire, that's gonna be in Orlando 2 weeks from now. We are organizing a very nice side event on the 12th of May called Take Circle 2026. We are gathering the leaders from the commerce ecosystem, and it's gonna be in a very nice venue. If you want to check it out, you can go to our website, you can go to NAC's website, Coveo website, all the information is there. But I will also make sure that you will receive a follow-up email if you attended or you don't attend or you didn't attend but actually registered. So we will be sending the link. So if you are there, we would love to meet you in person. Thanks, everyone.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
You guys
Thanks.
soon.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.